Good day, everyone. Welcome to our first lecture series for our subject, Research and Tourism in Hospitality Management. So this is the first introductory part of our course. The aim of this lecture is for you to have the very fundamental on how to conduct your research, to answer question, what do you mean by research? And its significance and its impact to the society, as well as the various methodology that you're going to apply, as considering also various challenges and hurdles that you might face whenever you're conducting your research paper or your thesis in your pursuit to your degree in our field, Bachelor of Science in Tourism and Hospitality Management. So my discussion will center on the following topics. First, define to you what are the fundamental aspects of research, its significance, and methodologies. So let's first go with the purpose of research. Why do we have research and why do we have research subjects? The very core or the purpose of research is not to burden anybody from conducting this academic rigorous process, but also to facilitate the knowledge formation, and also to train future professional through critical thinking and the scientific approach. The number one objective of research is, of course, to advance science and, in our case, influence policymakers. Okay. So for social research like us, our data provides a critical evidence that will shape on how decision makers such as our council members, decision makers in various organizations, and of course, the Department of Tourism and other tourism-related organization or government units. Now, without standing whether our paper would influence vital decision makers, our paper also serves the purpose of filling the knowledge gap that exists in our literature. That is why your paper should be able to identify a prominent gap in the literature so as to address and aims that your research study will help us address this prominent gap through your conduct of your paper or conduct of your research investigation. Another purpose of why we have research is for you to have a practical application. The research skills that you're going to inherit or develop throughout this journey will be vital for you to hone your decision-making skill as future managers and leaders of your organization. Next. So what is research? So the first topic that we're going to discuss is the difference of research, of basic research and applied research. What do you mean by basic and applied research? So basic is basically a type of research that you're just going to get the information. Example, whether, let's say, what is the common or what is a common tourism product that we're selling for Korean market. It's just simply you can search the internet and browse some prior research or literature coming from the OT to obtain your answer. Likewise, doing a research on Google is a simple basic research. So we say research from the word itself, re and search. So again, you have searched the information from time to time. So meaning to say, a basic research is a conduct of getting the information available at the existing literature. Now, what do you mean by applied research and how it's different from the basic? Applied research is conducting the same manner with basic research. However, there is an attempt to apply that particular data or information that you have obtained to a practical use or to a certain purpose. Example, in basic research, let's say you are studying as let's say you're studying the impact of tourism in Maginhawa Street. So first, in basic research, you're going to just simply obtain the number of visitors visiting that place because of food or the cuisine or the restaurants available in that area as a food tourism destination. So that is your basic research. However, that is not warranting a scholarly publication or scholarly paper, which is could be used in your degree. So you might apply that basic research or turn it to an applied research by, of course, conducting the same approach of retrieving any existing literature or any secondary data that could be found in the internet, then refining your research question, and then drawing inference and conclusion based on your obtained data. So what sets basic research from applied research is that, number one, complexity. When we apply the research, we are following a rigorous method of scientific process. So therefore, from the first step, define your problem, obtain the information, conduct your methodology or conduct the experimentation for some cases. And then based on their methodology, based on your experiment, draw inferences or conclusion. And then finally, for the last part, you apply what you have learned. Now, for example, in this case, what can you draw based on your inference is that you can conclude that tourism in that particular area could be not a factor or could be a major motivator for people to visit Maginhawa Street. So that's how basic and applied research differs too. Basic is basically you just have to gather the data that is already available in the literature, while applied, there is an attempt to use or utilize the gathered data or obtain data. Okay, there are two aspects. To gather the data available in the literature or obtain the data to a specific defined problem that you have set yourself for the intention to use that particular research in real life application. So that is what we call applied research. So in your research that you're going to do in your bachelor's degree, we're talking here applied research, not just a simple collection of retrievable information or data in the internet. So we're going to use your data or information that you will gather into a certain practical, useful situation that will help the industry. Next, research is important to academe. Now, to foster the development or the volume of knowledge, existing knowledge and literature, the academe should be able to fully function its research activities. So without the research, there's nothing to teach for the student. And without nothing to teach, we cannot train student well. So that's how the dual function of research. So we have research so that we can teach something. And then from teaching, we can gather more We could train more students to conduct research and so forth and so forth. So this sets the motion for academic development or scholarly pursuit. Next, real-world relevance. So that your paper should be able to argue that your research is not of a fancy or trivial matter, but of course with impact and significance to the real world. So meaning to say, you are expected to contribute to a tourism activity in a certain locality of your choosing. Normally, if you're talking here undergrad, we're talking here a district or an area within a city. Now, if you're talking masters or graduate, you're talking, perhaps you are concerning to the whole city itself or to the nearby cities or municipalities. Now, if in pursuit of higher degree, you're talking here the whole region or the whole province. So, of course, in our pursuit of our bachelor's degree, we're just um, the requirement for your scope would be within the area of certain district or tourist attraction existing in one municipality or one city. In our case, since we are a student funded by the city government of Manila, it is just improper to only focus our research intentions to the city that have contributed to our scholastic standing and of course our degree programs, which is the city of Manila. So the locale of our paper for our research is the city of Manila. So the main beneficiary of this research is of course the city of Manila. So you have to be mindful of that later on. Now there are types of research that we're going to discuss in. Later we're going to expand it more. But for purposes here, we have the quantitative, qualitative, and mixed method. So later we're going to argue what is the best for our case. And of course, what is the research process that we're talking here. Next. So as discussed a while ago, there are different types of research according to its approaches. So we have the quantitative, qualitative, and mixed method. Mixed method refers to the both combination of quantitative and qualitative in a format of quantitative first and then qualitative first or vice versa. Could be the qualitative first, then quantitative first. The main advantage of mixed method is that you can see both picture. You can see numbers and you can see emotions, feelings, and subjective component of a research. And of course, this provides a co-validating factor between two, which of course, numbers substantiate feelings and feelings gives impression or gives interpretation to numbers. So this is the advantage of mixed method. However, in our research, mixed method will be not employed or will not be used in our course because number one, you need to have a highly skilled research uh, skill base to use mixed method. Number two, it is taxing for both since you're going to follow the rigor of one category and another. It might be confusing for all of the parties involved. Third, it's time consuming because the analysis will require the depth of qualitative research and the rigors of the statistics of quantitative research. So for undergrad like you, it will be very taxing if we're going to use mixed methods. So in our simplification process, we avoid using mixed method for this moment. Next, quantitative or qualitative research. Now, for undergrad, it is recommended to start with quantitative research first, since quantitative research provides you the objective view of your research paper without confining or without biases influencing your work so much. Now, the advantage of quantitative research is that it's easy to draw conclusion. Because you have the numbers are tested using the statistical treatment, then you can draw upon to that statistical test a conclusion based on your pool size of your gathered result. So in quantitative research, it is rigorous enough for the student to have or to embody the research process. So in our course, we will only utilize the quantitative research because number one, it will provide you with a working experience on how to follow the research process. Number two, there are plentiful of research books that are written in quantitative research. Number three, most of your undergrad thesis in your senior high school are quantitative. So therefore, you are already trained somehow using a quantitative approach. Number five, it provides a big objectivity of your research. Okay. Now, why not use the qualitative? Qualitative research is easy in obtaining data first. Okay, so it's easy to get your respondent here in qualitative research. However, the challenge lies on how would you interpret the data? So for most undergrad, qualitative research is easy in terms of data collection. However, drawing practical, useful, and insightful research conclusion using a limited number of participants is hard to do, especially in a case of not so seasoned or experienced researcher like you. So in this case, we're going to focus our attention or our endeavor to quantitative research. Now, what is the advantage of quantitative research over qualitative? Quantitative research could be validated using statistics, and it could be data could be easily tested for its general applicability for all people, or we're referring it to the general practicability or predictability of our data using the general population. However, the limitation of the quantitative research is that you cannot explain or infer why the data acts in that way, because you need to get the story behind the data, why your data is cofactor or has a correlation over another factor or another variable. You cannot simply expound it, but you can identify that there is a relation, but we can establish how are they related. So what is the relating factor? So basically, that's the strong suit of qualitative research, to explain, to infer and describe, or especially for subjective reasons, or especially for discussing feelings, emotion, and etc. Qualitative research is really a useful toolkit there. However, again, for our limitations, considering the time constraint, your paper should be concentrated on quantitative research. Next. So this is the research process that we're going to follow throughout our journey. Now, of course, there are different terminology that we're only using, but it also reflects the research process. For example, introduction, chapter 1, problem and problem setting. Chapter 2, review of related literature. Number 3, methodology, or chapter 3. Chapter 4, results and discussion. And number 5, or chapter 5, would be your summary, conclusion, recommendation. So basically, each chapter has its is being represented by your research questions. Okay. So let's first discuss your step one, problem identification. Right now, we are on a problem identification phase. Now, of course, your problem at the moment is not well defined, well suited. You have to watch the next video. Now, clarity provides depth of analysis. So it's very important for us to identify your problem properly. Now, your research problem should be operationalized. What do you mean by operationalized? There are variables that you have to do so, or you have to qualify. For example, visitors, tourists. How do you measure, or how would you quantify a tourist? So if you see a foreigner, is that automatically a tourist? So these are the questions that you have to answer in your problem identification. You have to work with your variables. Next, step two, literature review. For our case, we're going to find, or we're going to require you to search for literature, both local and foreign. What's the purpose? This provides you with a depth of analysis on how to further improve your research problem. And step three, your methodology. So we have to define our methods on how we will answer our problem. Okay. In this step, it's called formulation of research question. So it's basically your methodology. What particular method, or the study of what particular method is best suited for you to answer your research question. Next, we have data collection and analysis, and then conclusion. Self-explanatory. Now, the impact of research in real-world application lies on the following. So for sciences, considering medical courses, that's healthcare. For educational and other endeavor, that's educational enhancement through curriculum development. And for our case, business insight. So basically, we provide new product development, such as study in your tourism development plan, policy, tourism policy, and of course, tourism market research, and etc., etc. We can also develop case studies. No? Case studies are simple, or these are recorded events that you find interesting, and of course that will validate certain theories in our literature that you need to highlight, and of course set as a benchmark for future endeavor, or future actions or interventions. So these are the normal field in our research. So the normally research are strong suit for psychology, since there are majority of psychology student for business are pursuing research, as well as political and business marketing. And lastly, what are their challenges in your research? Number one, I think this is the most important, access to data. Before you be able to come up with your topic, you have to make sure that you have an access to your population, to your local, to your interviewer, and to your advisor. Two, of course, access to data is very important. Without it, there's no research, or that will be very difficult for you. Okay. Next, ethical consideration. There are some research topic that is best left uh, untouched, or let's say if we're going to conduct our research for a tribal or indigenous people, there are legal repercussions. So you have to follow the law, which mandates an ethical consideration or ethical permit through the Indigenous People Commission. So it's quite troublesome. Next, time constraint. This is especially true in your case. Since we're going to end the semester by December, you should be able to present your paper by early November. So around November, you should be able to present your paper by November. Next, funding, money. Of course, as much as you would like to have a more extensive and more complex research, but knowing your limitation, especially your financial one, you should be able to work within your budget, within the feasible budget of your group. Next, interdisciplinary collaboration. This is an opportunity, yet also a challenge. Since tourism is a multicultural or multidiscipline in field. For example, tourism and economics combines well, as well as tourism psychology, tourism and education in terms of curricular or curriculum development or review. We also have a combination with tourism and food science. We also have, I mean, there is an endless possibility for interdisciplinary collaboration. However, the challenge here is, of course, one discipline um, prescribe a certain format of conducting research. For example, in marketing, the hypothesis is always positive. So in tourism, it's neither positive or negative. So now, it's beyond your. I mean, you have to cross the boundaries, or you have to function uh, within you have to co-work with your other colleague from the other field of industry. But in your case, you won't do it naman. So it's nice to work with advisors or consultant coming from a different field, especially if it's related to your focus or study. So that's the challenge. How would you bridge your disciplinary jargon and disciplinary perspective? Because each discipline has their own unique ways of thinking it. For example, if you are a lawyer, you see everything as in legal perspective. If you're a doctor, you see everything in medical term. And even medical term, if you're a doctor in nursing, you have also a different perspective, right? You have a different perspective on how to take care of your patient because that is embedded to our discipline. Okay. So I think I'm already done for the introduction. So now I'm going to end this